It's not about what you have. It's about who you have. It's not about where you live. It's about how you live. And it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize podcast. Today, we get to dive into the mind of a serial entrepreneur, specifically in the beverage product space. We get to talk about his journey, how he got into the space, what it's like to launch a product across the nation, especially a drink product across the entire nation, the lessons he's learned, the different companies that he's built, and and a bunch of golden nuggets within that. I really enjoyed this podcast. We got to dive deep into what it takes to be a serial entrepreneur. And without further ado, please help me welcome Tim Baggs to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Super excited to have you on. It's funny how it goes, the relationships, right? We had Charlie Patterson on, which was amazing. And I asked him like, hey, what other great entrepreneur that you know here locally in Central Oregon could come on? And he said, you have to get Tim Baggs on. Tim Baggs is an entrepreneur who's really been a lot in the product. You've done a lot of product entrepreneurship, specifically in the drink space, I'll call it overall. What is it like to be in that space and try to get a really entrepreneurial product off the ground?
Man, it's really exciting and it's really fun and really hard. And I call it being a bipolar professional.
There you go.
You go straight from these extreme highs to these extreme lows. And it's a lot of learning and a lot of just continuous proactive moves.
Yeah, take us back to the beginning. How did you get into the drink space?
Yeah, so I threw parties.
You threw parties?
I threw big parties. It was a company called LA Ski and Sun Tours. It was my first job after college. I paid for my own school during college, so I was a rep for these guys. Yeah. And I'd get everybody from my fraternity to go up to Whistler, and it was called the All College Ski Trip, and it was colleges from all over the Northwest. And I was able to recruit the most kids, and I'd get a free trip. I'd sell the extra trips I earned for cash. So I had some spending money up there and just went bonkers.
How are you recruiting everybody? Through the fraternities? Like door knocking? What are you doing?
Yeah. So you get one guy from the company comes in with a brochure and says, hey, we're going to throw this party and it's going to be awesome. You should come. And you're like, okay. And then well, do you want to be a rep? And you're like, what's that mean? And then you basically go to your fraternity, and you get, there's a fraternity rep and then there's a head campus rep. Yeah. And so I started out as a fraternity rep, and I got a ton of guys from my fraternity to go. And then I graduated to the head campus rep. And that's when you go to every Monday night dinner of the fraternities and sororities. You go to the ski clubs, you go to all the athlete groups and everybody, and just trying to get everyone to go up.
I always wanted to be a professional partier. Sounds like that's what you got done. So you threw all these huge parties, and then you guys realized you had this essentially this huge built-in customer base. And so what happened? How'd you get into the product, like the drink product space specifically?
Yeah, it was wild. We went to a business camp through that group in '98 in Keystone, Colorado. And this dude named Sean Hackney stood up and said, I'm going to change the beverage game. And it was this tiny little blue and silver can. And they rolled it out a couple months later in San Francisco. And so we watched Red Bull come to market. Red Bull started giving us stuff at our events. And then the founder of Rockstar worked for the tour company down in San Francisco. He was the Bay Area manager for the high school division. And so when he started developing Rockstar, we all watched him doing like hand-drawn labels and getting that stuff, building out that brand. And then he recruited us, as he went to market, he recruited us to launch it for him.
To come help launch what is now Rockstar.
What is now Rockstar Energy Drink.
Yeah, so you were there. I mean, because we all now know Red Bull is a household name, Monster. We know Rockstar is a household name. Yeah. But you were there because you're a professional partier. You were there when they were trying to launch the Red Bull. You said somebody stood up and they're like, hey, I'm going to change the game. And so you were there for the launch of Red Bull. You then took a huge part of being in the launch of Rockstar. I mean, you were out there selling Rockstar for this founder, right?
Yeah, it was incredible. He had us get a warehouse to bring in 2 truckloads. And so we found a warehouse next to the Nike campus up in Beaverton, Oregon. And so we got the warehouse and we're kind of like, shoot, now what? And then we would go in there and just loading up our cars. And
just load up your cars?
And selling it and trying to open up on-premise accounts, which are like bars and restaurants and stuff like that. And I was feeding all of my college reps with Rockstar. And so all of their events, all their parties. So all of a sudden, we went from nobody having any idea, this crazy, huge 16-ounce can that was just totally out of the ordinary. And we went and just started every party from whether it was Gonzaga, Boise State, Montana, Oregon State, UW, everybody was partying every weekend with Rockstar.
And what are people's reaction initially? So you come in, you bring the Rockstar in, and what's the reaction initially? Just they're good with it? They're excited or what?
No, not at all. This was hilarious. So the second event we did was Civil War, Oregon State, U of O in Austin.
A big one.
Big one. We brought down 100 cases in the back of my buddy's F-350. And we post up on the bridge where all the students walk to Austin Stadium. And we're standing out there with these, those giant white Costco coolers full of Rockstars with ice on them. And it's freezing, it's raining, it's Oregon. And so we're trying to give cans out. And people are like, no, like, it's like we're trying to hurt them or
give
steal.
them something.
And it's like, no. And then you finally were like, it's free, take it. And they were scared of it. And they didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
But by the time you start learning how to interact with everybody and get them to try it, we finally went through, I think we went through like 50 cases at that event, and then we had big tailgates that night too. But it was great fun, and it's you have to. People, their first reaction is no.
Yeah.
We just did an event with our new product, BeGOAT, where we gave out free cans at Market of Choice, and they're working. They love us. They love to support local, and it was the same kind of similar reaction where it's free, and they're like, oh. Okay, well, maybe I'll listen to you.
At first it's no. Once it's free, they'll try it.
Yeah.
And then you just got to make sure that between the no and the free now, when they actually try it, that they really like it, right?
Totally.
Yeah. So was there a bunch of iterations of the Rockstar formula, I guess you'd call it, or was the formula always the same and then the packaging and the marketing changed?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah,
So
there
it
was
just
some
kept
minor
iterating.
tweaks in the formula. It was funny. Looking back now, I can tell when they were tweaking stuff because they're like, oh, we just got down this run. It's so delicious.
Yeah.
And that was them just like, hey, we kind of pushed and pulled a couple of these ingredients.
Yeah.
We changed the niacin a little bit so people aren't getting any much of a red flush and all that kind of stuff.
Wow.
It's just interesting stuff.
Very, very interesting. So you did the Rockstar, you launched that. That was sort of your taste into the product launching world. And then after that, what happened?
Yeah, it was after that, about in 2005, after 4.5 years with Rockstar, I realized that my future wasn't going to be with Rockstar.
Yeah.
And I started trying to figure out where I wanted to go. I had created, through my working at Rockstar, I created and learned how to work really well with distributors, really well with chains, created an incredible network. I had ran 14 states for them. I had one other guy that I just hired.
From out of your back of your car to now running like 14 states. That's pretty cool. That's cool growth.
Yeah, it was incredible. And we were the fastest growing area. When all of our chain meetings, we'd use data from Portland, Salt Lake City, and Anchorage, and then San Francisco.
What was the catalyst? Like where did the growth, what was the tipping point from, I know we're going to move on to the next one, but what was the tipping point where all of a sudden it lit on fire because you're just handing out monsters or rock stars and everyone's saying no at a football game to now just skyrocketing? What was the tipping point?
The distributors are making really good money per case.
Okay.
And once you could prove that it's sold, you could enroll those guys and get them to be fired up to sell it.
So it was all about the distributors.
A big piece of it was about the distributors. Once we got the brand moving and accepted and known, then it was having the distributors execute on the plans, getting displays up. All
And
that
distributors is just grocery stores, gas stations, et cetera, or distributors is what?
Well, one of my buddies calls them the fat-fingered middlemen.
Okay.
And so they're the ones you see the big trucks with like Coors on them going down the road, or Red Bull or Coke or whatever.
Like Bigfoot, would that be
exactly.
a beverage distributor?
Those guys are
Okay.
awesome. And they're really good at what they do. They're Pepsi and they're a bunch of other brands. And so that's exactly what distributors. They just sell. They buy it from the supplier and then they sell it to the stores.
So it's not you. You're not actually going and selling it. You as the product manufacturer of BeGOAT, you don't actually go and sell it to the stores. You sell it to the distributors and then it goes out.
Yeah, exactly. And then, but we also have our own team that helps facilitate and sell it for and with the distributors.
Okay, yeah. So you contribute to it, but really the key is the distributors are buying it wholesale from you and then selling it retail to the
Exactly.
and then it's getting double retailed when the customer buys it. But that's the actual overall, call it standard way that these types of products make it on the shelf.
Exactly.
That's good to know. So it was really building relationships with those distributors. That's what lit it on fire.
It's getting the brand, the momentum, the marketing stuff is huge. It's kind of a 1-2 punch. You have to go out and you have to create that grassroots energy around it. People have to know it, want it, and want to try it. Once you get that rumbling, you need to have the best distributor possible because they'll help take it to market to that and really crush it.
Yeah, and really, really go.
Yeah.
What about like once it gets into the store? So is it the distributors that are battling for shelf space, or fridge space, et cetera, or how does that work?
A little bit. They usually have a chain team that'll go out and help call on the chains, the Safeways, Albertsons, all that kind of stuff. But you also will have a chain manager. And your chain guy will go support the distributors in the effort to go in together and to crush it.
You have to make sure you get your space, et cetera.
Yep.
Cool. So the distributors lit that thing on fire. You realized, like, you grew Rockstar. You said, that's not where my future is anymore. And then what was the new ventures from there?
So then I created an energy alcohol drink. So I basically saw
foot on the gas, foot on the brake.
Exactly. Yeah. But you see that everybody at all the parties and all the events, all the bars, Red Bull vodkas,
You're just trying to give the people what they wanted,
exactly. Man. So created it was called Liquid Charge.
Yeah.
And it was a 16-ounce can, 6.9% alcohol. Actually, I totally forgot I was going to bring down the label that I did because I wrapped the label that I made around that I had the guys from Hyperlight Wakeboards make for me around a Rockstar can and took it to all my distributors. Pre-sold 300 grand worth of product.
So that's what you did.
Yeah.
Wait, let's unpack that a little bit. So you're like, okay, this is great. It's hard to launch a product. I got to make sure I can get this launched. So you had a label created, like a really cool label, just wrapped it around a Rockstar can and then went and pre-sold it.
Yep.
That's entrepreneurial. That's like one of the most entrepreneurial moves you could make.
Yeah, it was incredible. And so then I went to one of my best friends and said, hey, I've got this many orders in hand.
Yep.
And I need to produce it now.
Yeah.
So I need to, you want to be an investor.
Yeah.
And he's like, dude, I just watched what you did with Rockstar. That's insane. Let's go.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So that's how we got off the ground.
So Liquid Charge gets off the ground.
Yep.
After you wrapped a Rockstar, that's so cool that you did that. You wrapped a Rockstar, got $300,000 in pre-sales. It gets off the ground. What happens then?
And then it just goes bonkers.
Yeah.
It was the right idea at the right time, and I had the right relationships. I knew how to work with distributors and chains really well. I knew how to get it in people's hands really well, and it went wildfire. So we started first Oregon, then Washington, and then we spread it to 44 states in 18 months.
How hard is it to get a product like that, like all the licensing, et cetera, because all of a sudden now you got energy, you're adding the alcohol component into it. Is it way harder to get that product approved, et cetera, or is it pretty simple?
It's not too difficult. They give you a lot of parameters. And so you have to, all of a sudden now you're finding yourself working with label attorneys, making sure that everything's compliant with where the TTB, which is a division of the BATF, want it to be. They don't want your alcohol to be, they don't want you to have the 6.9% as the whole can. It can only be 3 millimeters high. Yeah. But what I learned is, so if any alcohol beverage that you see on the shelf, it can only be 3 millimeters high as their percent of alcohol. But you can stretch it really wide. You can put a border around it. You can do all that kind of stuff.
So there was a bunch of labeling. There's a bunch of labeling laws that you had to get figured out, et cetera. Yeah. But the product manufacturing itself, the alcohol component, because I know it's difficult to get like liquor license to be able to sell. Like having a liquor license in a small town is a big advantage, let's say, because they don't give them out all the time. Yep. But that's not as difficult. That's not that crazy of a barrier of entry when you're producing it.
Yeah, and then once you start working with the right team, it's
not as crazy. So that part's not as crazy.
It's just networking and finding and using and getting the licensing set up for your brand, but you're selling through a distributor that's already licensed.
Yeah. So there you go. That's what I was trying to get to. So you're selling through the licensed distributor.
Yep.
They're selling it to the licensed liquor stores, et cetera.
Yep.
And so for you, it wasn't as wild. You have to learn, obviously, now some new rules of the game. You can't just have any labeling. You have some laws around the alcohol, et cetera, the disclosures. But you got that figured out, and it just started going like wildfire.
It did. And so we started selling tons of truckloads, like everywhere.
What's that feel like also when your idea goes from, it probably already felt great just getting $300,000 worth of pre-sales, but now when it starts to go like wildfire, what'd that feel like?
It was incredible. Yeah. And so there was a break there though, because our label didn't get approved by the TTB right away. And so I call it my entrepreneurship day on November 7th when I called up and actually Russ from Rockstar, the founder, called me and said, hey, I told you could sell other stuff, but I don't want you selling energy alcohol drinks. Yeah. And I'm like, well, sorry. I'm an independent contractor. I'm doing it anyway. And he's like, you need to pick right now. And I go, you're not going to like this answer. Yeah. Because he didn't know that it was my product. Yeah. He goes, pick now. And I go, Liquid Charge. He goes, fuck you. Fuck you. And then slams the phone down. And I was just sitting there like shaking from adrenaline, like, that just happened.
Yeah. Here we go. Yeah. And now we're going to go hard.
So I had a gap of like 4 or 5 months with no paycheck. And I was just living off of savings and stuff like that, trying to get everything ready to go to market. One of our first truckloads that we sent to Aberdeen, Washington got stuck we sent it via rail, so it'd be cheaper shipping, got stuck on a rail yard in Montana or North Dakota or somewhere like that during a big snowstorm. The whole thing froze.
And frozen gone.
Yeah. So by the time it got to the distributor, when a can freezes in the inside, alcohol doesn't really freeze, right? Yeah. So it had to be so freaking cold, and the can will expand, and the tab that holds the tab on, the CO2 from the carbonation will escape out of that if the whole can doesn't blow.
Yeah. So usually I've seen them blow up.
Yeah. So this whole truckload gets there, and there's all slushies with no carbonation.
Holy cow.
So now we were spending every dime we had. I remember I spent like $13,000 on stickers for point of sale for the cooler doors, and my mind was blown. I was like, $13,000
just for stickers. Yeah, you're like, what's happening?
This is
exactly.
insane.
It's getting crazy.
Yeah. And then I had to write a check for a full truckload worth of stuff that was sent to Aberdeen, Washington, and then resend them another truckload that I'd already planned to sell to somebody else and take that profit to help go over here.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. So you just were getting hit like any entrepreneur at the beginning. You're the Rockstar guy, Russ. You had to make a quick choice. You made the choice. All of a sudden now you have no paycheck coming in, and then you're just getting hit hard with all the entrepreneurial problems right in the face right away.
Everything right in the way, and it
coming
was,
at you.
Yep.
But you worked through it. It sounded like you got through those initial first problems, and you started going hard on them. Like it started still caught fire, made it to multiple states, et cetera, right?
Yeah. I mean, we went everywhere. We were in every bodega in Manhattan. I remember hanging out with the Manhattan beer guys. We went to Sparks Steak Restaurant in Manhattan and just started talking about all the stories and then rolling out. And he's like, watch this. And we went literally walking to every bodega, and we had 2 facings on the shelf, pricing, point of sale.
Everything was going.
It was just like insane.
Yeah.
It just looked so cool. I was like, wow. Holy cow, this little kid from Gladstone's got stuff up in Manhattan.
Yeah, it's
this
going.
Is bonkers. Yeah. Yep. What I did know how to do is I knew how to work with distributors, and to work with chains, and how to get a brand going. I didn't know how at that time to properly make it, what it looked like for the branding, the imaging, and also the flavor. I kind of missed on the flavor.
So the flavor is what you think that's what it ended up being the downfall, or what?
I think that's one of the pieces. Yeah. And I think the branding too. I remember sitting down with Randy Couture, and it wasn't Randy, it was his other guy that was in Gresham, was like his best friend that trained with him. And he was like, I don't get the packaging, man. And I was like, okay. Yeah. The guys from, my buddy did it from the wakeboard industry. It's awesome. It's rad. And but we had these different evolutions of the packaging. And once we got to kind of the end where before we shut down the business, the packaging was awesome. And I could tell that I learned how to create a consumer product. Yeah.
It was like School of Hard Knocks. You really went through it, learned a lot, things caught on fire. It didn't end up working out, but you learned just a ton of stuff about trying to get something off the ground, and it looked like it was going to end up happening, and then it just ended up shutting down.
Yeah, well, it sort of, but not really. We had kind of like 2 lives. We got brought back to life. So you
did get brought back to life.
Yeah. So in 2005, we roll out. We go everywhere. In 2007, we realized that we were selling truckloads, then we were selling pallets, and it was just too expensive to ship. So we had to bring it back in. We were running out of money. I did a small capital raise from some guys up in Connecticut. First outside money brought in. And then realized we weren't selling fast enough. Like our sales per point weren't going fast enough.
What's the target? Like, what do you want?
You want to be a can a day at a minimum.
Can a day at a minimum. Yeah. And how do you track it even? What's the tracking system?
So there's IRI and Nielsen data, and they'll provide that for you. Okay. And you can feel it. It's like an organic thing. You can feel when a brand is starting to take off.
Yeah, when it's moving, momentum. You can see it, et cetera.
And just the mannerisms, the demeanor of people, like everything changes.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, everyone laughs at all your jokes, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's happening. You could. That's awesome. Yeah. So your burn. What I'm understanding is like the life of the product was on the shelf too long. You want it to be a can a day, getting moved, and it wasn't happening.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we ended up, I had to fire everybody, including myself, from the business. Wow. And how
was that?
Oh, it was awful. I lost friends. I had some family working for the business. We had 22 employees, and then we had 0. Yeah.
Well, I'm really sorry that happened.
Oh, dude, it's part of the learning process.
Man,
if it didn't happen, I wouldn't be here right now with you.
And if you weren't trying to do anything big, then do nothing and you'll get nothing. Dude. So it's part of the process. Yep. But there's probably some sleepless nights in that, huh?
There was a lot of sleepless nights. Yeah, for sure. And then I started just building it back up, and I realized that the 24-ounce segment was really starting to fire. Yeah. And
so bigger
cans. Yeah. So I'm like, okay. And there was another brand out called Four Loko.
Yeah.
Have you heard of Four?
Oh yeah. Four Loko was like at the peak of my my party days in college, and for some reason at some point somebody's like, they're going to discontinue Four Loko, and so we had like a stint where we were having like Four Loko parties every weekend. Those were some wild parties. Talk about Four Loko. Yeah.
Exactly. So we were on the market before they were. Yeah. And then they came out with a brand just called Four, and it was a 16-ounce can. Yeah. And they didn't do well at all.
Yeah. Then they were the big kid. They were always the big kid.
No, but so that's the thing that people don't know, right? And then it's like some other brand lifestyles too. Yeah. Like Celsius's first production run was in 2004.
Okay.
Right.
Nobody knows.
Nobody knows that. And they went bankrupt a couple times. They've raised a bunch of money. I don't even think the founders are involved at this point. Or
they're gone now.
Yeah, I think they're been
What do you think got them off the ground? Influencers and like the spread of that, or what? Because now they're everywhere.
And they did a massive deal with Pepsi for distribution, and they're just crushing it. Yeah. So they kept raising money. They kept trying to find their way. I talk about the reiterations of our brand and our flavors and stuff like that. They first launched as a basically a fat loss energy drink.
Yeah.
They wanted you could burn calories while sitting on your ass and drinking.
There you go. It was a big promise.
Yeah. And they did college studies to show that you actually burn calories when you're drinking them. Yeah. The can was like a dark blue color. Yeah. It just wasn't that cool and didn't really make that much sense, especially when you're going against these big badass black 16-ounce cans. And we're just like, boom. And they were kind of like,
yeah. Yeah, you got and you
and then they came out with some more iterations, and then I think in like 16 or 17 they came out with the Live Fit slogan and changed it from burning fat and burning calories. I don't think it was fat, but burning calories, right? To a healthier Live Fit kind of lifestyle and marketing campaign. And that's when they started raising money, traditional dollars, and then just started getting that momentum.
Okay. So they also had to go through multiple iterations, right? And that's the classic. Every great entrepreneur, great product, et cetera, you always see it once they had the big success, but they usually either already failed or redline that failure for a long time, right?
100%.
Until it becomes successful. Every single person that's really made it big, really big, not just small, but really big that I've ever talked to has had that exact same pattern and story, maybe multiple times, right? So
for sure. Yeah. It's they call it a 10-year overnight success.
There you go.
If you're lucky enough to be in the beverage business and make it.
Exactly. I remember talking to Hayden Watson. He's one of my great mentors. I feel so blessed to have him. And they're usually number one employer to work for in Oregon many, many years in a row. And I asked him one time, how do you do it? And he said exactly that. But he actually said it's a 30-year overnight success, right? 30 years of overnight success is now showing up. So
yeah, he's an incredible human.
Yeah, he is.
They just hit Fortune magazine for one of the best places to work in the nation.
There you go. So
are you kidding me?
Yeah.
It's incredible.
Of course they did.
Yeah.
Of course they did. So you had to fire 22 employees, including yourself, you said, even family members. But then you started working on iterations and rebuilding it up, or what was the story from there? Exactly.
So it just was out. I mean, now I'm back to selling it. Like I'm calling on accounts. I'm going everywhere. I didn't take lunch meetings because I was afraid somebody would expect me to pay for it.
Yeah.
I wasn't. I stopped.
You were just like, money was, exactly.
Yeah, it was gone. Yeah. I got to a point where I flew down to Texas. We had these little short buses as promo rigs. Yeah. And one of them was down there and I had to move it. And we had an event down in South Padre Island. And so I drove it down there for the event. Yeah. And I came back, I put it in a storage yard and I went to the airport. And before then I went to lunch and my credit card was declined just for $17. Yeah. So then I pulled out my other one. Then I pulled out my other one. Yeah. Decline. Then I pulled out my debit card and I knew it was negative balance and they accepted it. And I was like, oh my God, I'm not washing dishes. I literally was going to just, I'm here to figure this out because I don't have it right now. I can call call a friend or whatever, but I was just, mortified, just sweating, terrified. And that went through. Get on the plane.
The pressure was real at that time.
Got on the plane. My car was in the parking lot at the Portland airport. I didn't know how I was going to get out. I'm like, I'll just try my debit card again. And, it's been there for like a week and I'm like, that's like $50 at the time. Now it's like $50 a day.
Yeah, right? Exactly.
And I remember I was going and this kid was like, oh, I started talking to this kid that worked. He goes, just follow me out. And I'm just like, thank you. God sent me an angel.
Thank you, God.
I'm going to make it
God,
home.
I'm going to get out.
Yeah.
I don't have to blow my tires.
Totally. Exactly. And so got
Do you have family at this time? Kids?
No kids.
No kids. So you're grinding. Yeah. You're just grinding it out. Yep. So yeah, you're getting hit. You got pressure, your own pressure, but you don't have the family pressure yet.
Totally. Yeah. And I was just not, family pressure never would have been able to happen.
You wouldn't been able to do it.
I just would have had to just eject and get a job somewhere.
Yeah. But you're still going for it. Good. So then you get out, you make it out of the airport, you're rebuilding. What happens next?
So rebuilding and then seeing that the category had kind of changed into 24 ounce. Yep. And I had a really good relationship with our Oregon distributor, Mount Hood Beverage at the time. Now they're part of, it's called Columbia. Okay. But so the manager of Mount Hood Beverage, we go to, little did I know that they were about to discontinue me because they saw that there was no dollars behind it. There was no support. I didn't know this yet. So I brought up my new portfolio, said, hey, we're launching a new brand called Core. Yeah. And it's core spiked. It's 10% alcohol by volume in a 24 ounce can. It had diamond plate around the can. I had like a dog tag. It looked very fitting for the category. And he goes, you just saved this meeting. This is what I want. I'm like, I saved the meeting. Saved my, you start rolling through your head holy shit. And so then they ordered a couple truckloads of those and it was back off to the races. Grew back, saving the message, got back up to 7 employees. I think it was 15 states.
Yeah.
I did one of the coolest grassroots and marketing thing I've ever done.
What?
I crashed a Budweiser event by myself. So Anheuser-Busch and InBev were having their takeover or whatever merger or whatever that was. And the rumor is that David Peacock, who's a CEO of Anheuser-Busch, was going to announce that the A-level wholesalers, which are all the Budweiser distributors around the nation that don't sell other brands besides Budweiser, were going to open up.
Okay.
So this would be like the best distribution opportunity you could ever imagine, right?
Yeah,
Here's these guys that know exactly what to do, run everything. They're going to be hungry to start to get in and start fighting against the Miller Coors guys who have all these crazy other brands. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, okay, I got to figure this out. So I'm trying to find where the event is. None of it's published. None of it. It's just a distributor in-house event. So I call up to the brewery and finally get somebody, and I'm like, hey, I just got hired 6 months ago as executive assistant for the owner of the Budweiser distributor in Portland, Oregon. He's pissed that I screwed up his reservations. He told me to figure it out or find a new job. I'm really stressed here. Is there anything you can do to help me out with this?
No way.
Yeah. And this guy got really quiet and he's like, yeah, it's in Houston. And it's staying at this hotel and it's at the convention center. I'm like, you just saved my job. Thank you so much. You're the man. Hung up, called the hotel, booked. They were sold out, but they go, oh, well, we have an extra room block at this hotel. So I called that hotel, used the Anheuser-Busch discount code to get the room. And then I had shipped a bunch of product down there, and then I created some sell sheets. Well, I'm like, I'll go to the Kinko's, I'll print them at Kinko's, and sign up to carry all the paper through the airport.
Yeah.
Well, the Kinko's was in the convention center where the meeting was. So I put my suit on, had everything printed there, had them all stapled at the Kinko's, loaded up my carry-on and my briefcase with, I don't want to say it was 1,000 fliers, and then went back into the hotel while they all started their opening session. And the night before at the hotel bar, I went up to, drinking with all the guys and having some beers. And then I went up to the front reception desk and I said, hey, how much of this hotel is the Anheuser-Busch group? They're like, oh, almost all of it. I go, well, is there a certain wing you have where everyone's going to be at or concentrated? And they're like, no, they're just everywhere. So it's like, oh man, that's not going to be easy. So then fast forward to the next day, I had all the flyers, brochures, and I'm walking through the lobby and I hear people saying, has there been any issues or security issues? And someone's like, no, there's been no issues, no security. It's been really quiet. They're like, oh, that's good. And I'm rolling through, passing them as I do that, walk back over the sky bridge to the hotel, start at the very top right of the hotel, and just start going into every hotel room door, sliding my flyer underneath their door. If the door was open with maids in there, I'd be like, hola, ¿cómo estás? Bueno, para Anheuser-Busch. And just roll in and put it on their desk in the room and then roll out. So it's fully suited up. And
you're just going for it.
And I'm just going for it. Top room. And
what does it feel like? Kind of crazy?
Oh, I had adrenaline the whole time. It was insane. And I was going as fast as I could. Yeah. I knew I only had a matter of hours. Yeah. I'm sweating and the bag is so heavy because it's full of papers and everything like that. And my back, so everyone, I would go in and I'd lean left and put my hand under the door and slide it. I got into a really good routine, but little did I know that I was doing the same motion for 1,000 rooms or whatever, 500 rooms, and my back was blown the next day. It hurt so bad.
I bet you were going on. So you did, and then you just slid them all under every single.
Slid them all under, and then I went onto the where the elevators are at, with those ashtrays in between the elevators. I put a full can in every one of those ashtrays, all the way up to the on all the elevators. So there's no way they could not see it.
So you were able to just see it.
I get back to my hotel. I'm smoked. I hadn't eaten. It had been a long, like 4 hours probably of just hustling as hard as I could, as fast as I could. Take off my shoes, lay on the bed, and I'm like, oh my God, that just happened.
Yeah, you just did that.
I did it.
Yeah.
I get a call. I check my voicemail. I got to call my voicemail. We have you on camera. You're trespassing. We're going to arrest you. We're trying to find you, basically. And don't ever set foot back in here again. I was like, oh shit. So the next day I flew back out, flew back to Portland, and I was just walking around getting lunch in a little spot. Yeah. And then I'm leaving and I'm like, I wonder if I just wasted all that time and energy.
Yeah, like did anything come from it?
Yeah. And then I got a call from an Anheuser-Busch distributor in North Carolina. And then a call from a guy in Georgia. Little did I know that they said, They're not opening up their distributors yet.
Yeah.
And so then I'm asking these questions and then setting up these meetings. Well, I opened up Georgia, North Carolina, South Carolina, and some areas in Florida, all from that meeting.
Wow.
And kind of got off the ground. It was incredible.
Yeah.
In that meeting, Anheuser-Busch said, we need to be more grassroots marketing, more resourceful like this guy. Mention what I did.
So it came
the
up.
next day. It came up.
Oh, yeah.
Totally. And then he also said, mark my words, this category will not exist in 18 months.
Yeah.
Within 18 months.
Yeah.
So I had to sign a thing saying with every distributor that I opened up that if the category didn't exist, I would either replace the product for free or buy it all back.
Yeah.
Whatever we both decided.
Yeah.
18 months later, the category was dead.
Was it?
Yeah. So Anheuser-Busch, Miller, Coors, Diageo, all those guys used the lobbyist with the FDA and the TTB to basically make adding caffeine to a flavored malt beverage illegal. Gone.
Yeah.
You could still have your espresso stouts. You could still have vodka with caffeine in it. You could not add it to a flavored malt beverage.
And that was the end
which
of it.
essentially killed it in the US.
And killed Four Loko, killed them all.
We all had to do a full recall. We had to pay to have TTB agents come to the recall and watch it get recycled, turn into biofuel, and then leave. I mean,
What a crazy journey.
it was insane because I had a call with the head of the FDA, the BATF, and the FTC. And I'm like, dude, I'm just a small kid from Gladstone trying to live the dream. And they're like, what's Gladstone? Why are we on this call? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, nothing. Yeah. I'm doing exactly everything that's been laid out and all the rules and following everything.
Yeah. And they just shut it down.
And they said, you have to do this, you have to do that. And I go, okay, I'm just part of the solution. I mean, you can't fight the government like that, right? And then they said, and then at the end of the call, the guy goes, we want you to pull your website down. I go, why? He goes, because we think that'd be good. I go, well, do I have to? They go, no, but we really want you to. Really, really want you to. I go, no.
Yeah. You said no.
That was the only thing. That's the only thing at the time I said no. I'm like, until you tell me I have to, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah.
Like you guys just crushed every bit of ounce of my dream in my last 8 years of grind.
That was
just
done.
gone.
Yeah. What was that feeling like when all of a sudden you've been pushing so hard, you do some wild grassroots marketing like you did, and then you get regulated out of it? I mean, what was that like?
I was pretty low.
Yeah.
That's kind of the bipolar bottom part of it, right? We were just on a good run. I finally started making money again. I was able to take people out to lunch. I was able to buy coffee at, fancy coffee shops and all that kind of stuff. And I was stoked. We were really trending really well. And we thought we had it sorted because half our portfolio was caffeine free and half had caffeine. So we were just like, oh, we'll just swap that half in, expand the half. Well, when that got banned, they put our brand name on every ban list in the nation by state.
So you're done.
So they were like, well, we have to figure this out. It might take up to 6 months to a year to figure you out. And you're like, I don't have 6 months to a year. This stuff's going to go bad. We're going to lose all momentum in the marketplace. Within 60 days, might've been 30 days, there was 18 brands and 60 new SKUs, 60 new products launched between those 18 brands. And it was Pabst. It was Miller Coors. It was Diageo. It was Budweiser. It was Constellation Brands. It was all the big heavy hitters with tons of dollars. And so other than Four Loko, everybody else pretty much got wiped.
Yeah, you got regulated out by the lobbyists, and then the big boys came in and just.
Yep. And I got on a call with my partners and investors and said, hey guys, we have one black chip. Let me give you the scenario. We're one black chip. We're at the win. And where everybody else got huge stacks and huge racks. We need to raise like $10 million plus. Here's the plan. Yeah. Or we have exactly enough money to pay all of our bills, shake everybody's hands, look them in the eyes and say, thank you for the opportunity. We'll see you another time. Yeah. And nobody wanted to put more money in. And so we did exactly that. We paid our bills, shook everybody's hands and said, we'll see you another time.
Wow. What a story. And then fast forward to, let's go into BeGOAT. Fast forward to how'd you get then to BeGOAT? I mean, now the malt, the caffeine and liquor one's out. So how'd you get forward to doing BeGOAT, that venture? Tell us about that.
I like energy drinks.
Yeah. Yeah. You got a lot of energy.
Yeah. I love energy drinks. Yeah. And ever since, starting to drink them way back in the day. But you knew when you peed bright yellow and all that other stuff going on, you knew that those things are not awesome for you, right? And I started worrying more about my health, what I put into my body in like the late 2000s, like 2008, stuff like that. So really paying attention.
Yeah, why?
Just because I wanted to feel better and wanted to perform better. When I was launching all of the liquid charge and stuff, I think my first year I was in those 44 states, I went to like 42 of them. and I gained like 30 pounds, not the right way.
Yeah,
and you're traveling, you're eating bacon wrapped appetizers, you're having clam chowder with everything. It's disgusting. It's gross. You're just eating so much, listening to everyone's stories, creating relationships. That part's fun, but you just feel awful. And so then I started really diving into more of the health and clean food and that sort of thing. Yeah. And so when I shut down Charged Beverages, I went to work for an organic juice company so I could learn that side of the business, because I'd never been on the organic and health food side.
Yeah, so you went to the health side.
Yeah, and it was fun because I was able to talk all this shop with whether you go into a Whole Foods buyer, you go to natural foods brokers, all that kind of stuff. Like I was in it at that point and loving it and having the conversations. And then from there, I started doing private label development and started building brands for other companies. Okay. And so I actually did my first one in 2006 with a convenience store chain called Mavericks. Okay. And created an energy drink for them. Yeah. And that was a fun run.
So then you went and you said, hey, I have all this knowledge. I'm going to now, like Mavericks, I'm going to take everything I've learned on product development, label, et cetera, and I'm going to help consult with Mavericks. They already have the chain. They have the space. Now I'm going to help them bring their own energy drink to life.
Exactly.
So you did some consulting there.
Yep. Yeah. And that was fun. Learned a lot. Yeah. And then started offering to do that. And I hit up Dutch Bros and said, hey, guys, you guys want to make a Frappuccino and go after Starbucks? And then nobody responded. And then I got a call like a month later saying, hey, what do you know about energy drinks? We kind of like that space. And I was like, a little bit.
Yeah, a lot of it.
Yeah, what do you want to know? And so I started working with those guys while I was doing the organic juice. How big was Dutch
Bros at that time when you started working on their?
They were 100 stores.
Their sugary energy drinks.
Yeah.
There were 100 stores.
There were 100 stores. Okay. And they were selling Red Bull and mixing it with Torani syrup. And they wanted to basically create their own brand to go in that spot.
Yeah, so they figured out Red Bull was being mixed with syrup. They figured out people were loving it. They're coming at all hours to get it. And now they said, hey, let's do our own way. And you came in and helped consult, get it off the ground. Yep. Blow it up.
Yeah, it was super fun. Yeah. Yeah, those guys are rad.
Cool. So you did Mavericks consulting, you did Dutch Bros consulting.
Yeah, and there was a couple in there in between as well. And but those are the known ones.
What's it like going from doing the full like entrepreneurial full boost, like idea creation, trying to get it out there, to taking all the technical operational stuff you'd learned and pushing it in on the consulting side? Was that difficult for you? Did you like it? What was it like?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's a little more mechanical. Yeah. It's a little more challenging. You have to really sit there and stare at your computer instead of having conversations and selling stuff. Yeah. You're just really grinding out by the numbers and lots of spreadsheets, and you kind of have to shift gears and pull in a different brain area.
Yeah, like you said, super mechanical. So it went to more mechanical side, operational side, technical side of launching it. Because they were doing the sales side in their stores already. So that was out. Now it was really getting good at the numbers. And Cool. Yeah. And then what? When BeGOAT? When did you come up with BeGOAT?
So I started working with, I was working with Stumptown, I was working with Dutch Bros, working with Black Rock
so you were working with all them, pushing out their energy drinks.
Yeah, and just developing brands for them, formulas for them, stuff like that. And it was super fun. And I noticed that nobody, and I started seeing cascara sodas pop up in third wave, really high end coffee shops. Yeah. But I had noticed nobody had ever made an energy drink based around the coffee berry. Yeah. Here's the original energy drink. Yeah. The actual one. Yeah. And I remember I took a Spanish block class in high school. We did Spanish and global studies for the first block class, and we'd make coffee every morning. And that was the first time, back then, high school kids didn't drink coffee really. Yeah. We had Cokes, but we didn't drink coffee. And so we'd make a pot of coffee in the whole class, and we'd drink it and talk in Spanish the whole time. It was amazing. Yeah. And our teacher, Miss Michaels, made us or taught us where coffee came from. Came from in around 850 AD. There was a goat herder named Caldi, and he was herding his goats. And his goats ran up the hill. Do you know the story?
No.
And his goats ran up the hill, and they started dancing and butting heads and going bonkers. And so the goat herder rolls up like, what the heck's going on? Sees they're eating these red berries off this bush. So he grabs a bunch of them, puts them in his bag, corrals his goats, goes back, goes to the monastery that night, and they start brewing the coffee berry in tea, as a tea in their water. And they're up all night praying, having their best connection with God. And that's how coffee was discovered, essentially. Wow. Then it went from monastery to monastery around the world. And allegedly, the story says that's the founding of coffee.
Wow.
And so
through the cascara berry.
Yeah. So the whole thing, like I'm sitting there like, why hasn't anybody done this? And there was a brand that came out in like 2010. There was like a functional beverage brand with all the antioxidants from the coffee berry, but it tasted terrible. Yeah. It just didn't work. And so then I started kind of diving in. And this time we're working with GNC, also making their energy drinks, pre-workout stuff, and that sort of thing. So we had access to a lot of pharmaceutical companies and grade ingredient companies. And so started working with those guys. I'm like, dude, I think this could be something. Like, I want to make, and I was like, I want to go to one farm in one region and get the berry and have the whole story. This would be incredible. Make something really good, healthy, clean. Yeah. And so started about 2018, started just diving in on how to do it. Yeah. The first samples we're getting back didn't have much antioxidants in it, had the caffeine, but not antioxidants. I'm like, no, we need to be holistic. Yeah. Then I learned that you can't get that micro focused regional wise. Otherwise you have no scale and you can't have any consistency and flavor based on the, how much rain they gave, the agriculture part of it. Yeah. So then we found a non-GMO, all natural version that had a ton of antioxidants. I'm like, okay, lock that in. Yep. Now let's start working on flavors. How many flavors are we going to roll with? What type of flavors? How crafty are we going to go? And just started kind of diving into that whole bit. Wanted to make something that tasted really good, wasn't overly heavy in flavor, like super syrupy and thick. Yeah. And so then started working on this.
How many times did you formulate it? Because it tastes good. Zero sugar and tastes really good.
Yeah, so this is our newest stuff. We did our first production run in March 2nd of 2020. So here goes the entrepreneur bipolarness again. Yeah. What happened right after that?
Yeah. COVID hit you.
So we actually took cases with us up on our snowcat ski trip in Canada. And so we're all drinking BeGOATs and going, there was like 2.5 foot snow dump. It was amazing, just epic conditions. And we're crushing these and I'm getting fired up to come back home and launch it because the response to the formula was great.
Yeah, everyone's loving them. And
everybody kept telling me, man, this is a really great product. It tastes great. Yeah. Nobody told me it looked rad. Yeah. And so this was the original can, right? Yeah. So I'm like, Well, then we get back. The border shuts down a couple days later. We have to find a warehouse to store everything in.
Where are you making the product?
Portland, Oregon. Okay. The 7-Up facility.
Who makes it?
There's a 7-Up bottling facility there. Okay. Called Portland Bottling. So they've been making stuff for us. They used to make Rockstar for us back in the day, like known those guys forever.
So that's how it works. So they get the formula and boom, they make it there, bottle it for you.
Yeah, we send them all the ingredients. Yeah. We send them the cans. We send them everything, and then they put it together for us, and we pay them a fee per case.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So it gets made there. So the borders get shut. That's cool to know where it gets made. The border gets shut, and then what? You were saying something.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, we had a contract with Columbia Distributing to launch. That got put on hold. So now we just made 40,000 cases.
So you had made 40,000 cases because you had the contract, and everyone just goes, well, bam.
Boom. Yeah, done. Yeah. You're just like, okay. Yeah. And there were some more sleepless nights there too, because at the time, in 2016, I also opened up the boat dealership in Bend, Oregon called Lifestyle Wake. Okay. And we had a lot of boats in inventory. Yeah. And I was like, well, I guess Monday's going to be red boat day. Tuesday is going to be gray boat day. Wednesday will be black boat day. Like, this is going to be interesting. This might be really tough. Yeah. It all ended up working out okay, especially in the boat business because everybody bought boats. Yeah. But that was a pretty crazy flip too. But then with the BeGOAT side of things, we got about 6 months later, we got Columbia willing to deliver whatever we sold. Okay. So I hired a couple sales reps, and then we started selling it in the trade, started taking it up, getting it going. But like I mentioned just a little bit ago, everybody loved the taste and the formula. They loved that at that time it was 25 calories with 200 milligrams of caffeine. The branding was a little bit too natural and didn't really fire as a good consumer product. Yeah. And one thing I had told myself on this go round, this is the first product I've created for myself since the last one, right? Yeah. So I said, I'm going to hire firms to take a look at it, help me design everything, not have my friends and graphic designers go through it, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I did all that, and we got to the best place we could have with that really natural packaging, but it was not where it needed to go. Yeah. So I started working to find to get the new packaging, which is an iteration of where we are today.
Nice. Yeah. Yeah, no, I think it looks great. It's BeGOAT stands for greatest of all time.
Yeah, be your greatest of all time.
Be your greatest of all time.
Not everybody gets to be, pro athletes and Michael Jordan and Wayne Gretzky and all these really rad dudes and women. And so it's what do you do every day to be your greatest?
Yeah, I love
and take
it.
them to that level.
I love it. And so where, how you got, now this is the latest branding, and how are sales going? How's everything going in the business?
It's going really well.
Yeah.
Kind of like we're starting to get that momentum and that buzz going. The zero sugar, I think, is really fired.
Yeah.
I love all the flavors, and I'll pick up a different can at different times, depending on what my flavor is.
How many do you drink in a day? One?
I try to drink one.
Yeah.
If I hit two, it's like, oh boy.
Yeah,
and if I hit three, it's like, oh, buddy.
I mean,
this is too much.
Yeah, I mean, that's 600 milligrams.
Yeah, that's a grinder of a day. It happens, but I try to keep it not very often.
Yeah, so 1 to 2 is sort of where you land.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's clean too. What I'll say on the caffeine, because I was going crazy on the caffeine. You know, I would wake up, do just to start the day 4 shots of espresso, so 240 milligrams. That would just get the party started. And then about every hour, I would take another shot of espresso. And those mainly espresso was the game. But at the end of the day, I'd end up with like 600, 800, sometimes 1,000 milligrams. And for me, I've been trying to really cut that back, because what that does too, just kind of like the entrepreneur wave, that gives you a real up down wave. And this stuff, I've only been drinking now for 3 weeks or so, but it's the same thing. It's been giving me a good clean energy. When it's really been coming through for me has been like my second half of the day push. Like I like my coffee in the morning, but my second half day push is great. Like after lunch, rather than take 2 shots of espresso, and I've been drinking this, and boom, it works good. Or we were on the coast. I flew to the coast, got back at 3 p.m., stopped at Newport Market, picked one up, and boom, I was good the rest of the day. But it's clean too. It's not like it doesn't like give you this huge jolt or like a huge crash. It keeps it pretty clean. Is that the cascara in it, or what is that?
Well, we're just using the coffee berry. So you're getting the antioxidants. And I think, to my knowledge, we have more antioxidants per can than any other company, because we're actually using the antioxidants from the coffee berry and the caffeine from the bean. Yeah. There's no inositol, L-carnitine, niacinamide. There's none of the glucosinolactone. There's none of the fillers and junk that's in everybody else's stuff. And so it just burns really clean.
Yeah, so it's just a clean, consistent burn. 6
ingredients.
God, that's the good part about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. What about then, like when you're doing the flavor, all the different flavors and all that testing, what does that look like? So do you small batch it then at the same place and test it out, or what? Yeah,
we work with a flavor house
flavor house.
Yeah. So those guys are rad. So there's really big ones and there's really small ones, and you want to find the one that kind of fits your vibe. A lot of times the really small ones, you don't want to, they're tough. Yeah. But you go into these places and they're like 3 stories, 4 stories high, and there's all these white lab coat guys in there, and gals. And you walk in and they're like, "Oh, this is our flavored tobacco room." You're like, "Oh." They're like, "Oh, this is our lotions and candle room." You're like, okay. And this is our food. This is our beverage. And they literally have all these zones where they're making all the different, how they use flavors.
That's how they roll that, huh?
Yeah, and it's incredible.
So what, it's in Portland too?
No, those the ones that we use with BeGOAT are called Flavor Man, and they're in Louisville, Kentucky.
So you go out to Louisville, Kentucky, and then, I mean, who does the ideation? Like you guys do the ideation, hey, I want it to taste like huckleberry lemonade, and you do the ideation, and then they go and figure out the formulas to make it work, or what? Yeah. So what's in I always wonder, like when they say natural flavors, is that the component? It's the flavor that they're going and creating? Yep. And that's what they use. They create using all natural ingredients to create the flavor you ask for and you want, and then you buy that concentrate from them, and then they send it over. So you buy that concentrate from them, and they send it to the bottle house. Boom, that's one of the 6 ingredients.
Exactly.
Oh, cool. So you go to the flavor house. And then what, like when you're testing the flavors, are you like really noticing the difference? Are you doing blind flavor testing? How's that roll?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, you don't really have to do blind, because they come out and like, and if you taste them, and they'll give you like 3 different renditions, or that's usually how we ask for it. You get 3 different renditions. You take notes based on the aroma, the sweetness, so
you do
flavor.
You'll do aroma, you'll do the taste, you'll do sweetness. Yep. And then you're trying to figure out the best.
You're trying to figure out the best, the best blend, and how people are going to receive it the best, and that sort of thing.
Yeah. And so how many times, to get a flavor right, how many times are you trying it out?
This one was over a year.
Yeah. Over a year of testing different flavors.
Of going back and forth saying, nope. We were never landing. We were getting close, but never really landing. Watermelon dragon fruit, one of our original flavors, it was also about the same thing. Yeah. It was a lot of iterations.
How many flavors did you test over a year? Are we talking like hundreds of flavors? 50?
Probably. There's 3 per shot. Probably did at least 60.
Yeah,
at least
to try to get it right.
Yeah, just trying to find the balance, because. And like our watermelon dragon fruit, to get a natural non-GMO watermelon flavor is really tough. Yeah. To get a natural and artificial watermelon flavor is really easy. And I wanted it to be natural and non-GMO, but I also wanted it to be watermelon up front with kind of a dragon fruit on the end. And so that took a long time to get it right.
Yeah. I mean, it's cool to see the balance when you're trying to produce a product, right? Or to get an insight of that, because a lot of people, we use these products, drink them every day, but we have no idea how they're put together. So I like that. That's cool to get an insight on that. Do you think that with e-commerce and people being able to order online, social media, et cetera, that distributors are going to start to get taken out? Are you seeing do people order this online instead, direct from you guys and get shipped? Is that going to be a new trend we see, or what do you think is going to happen there?
Yeah, Amazon Prime's been really good to us.
Yeah.
It seems like every other week they're opening up a new level for us to kind of grow within their system.
How does that work? Break that down for me. So you open your store up on Amazon Prime. How does that work?
Yeah, so basically you put your products up for sale on there. And then you open up your own store on there, which is like your own website within their website. Yeah. And then you can, excuse me. We ship pallets to those guys now. And so then they
ship them to Prime?
Yeah, we ship them to Amazon, and then they separate them to their warehouse. And they deliver direct. In the first year or so,
Amazon where they work, where I see, like when I see those videos of them working with humans and robots, that's where you're shipping it to main Amazon, not like a third party.
Exactly. Yeah. We work directly with those guys, and
sweet. So you send it now to Amazon, a warehouse, and then it gets ordered on your Amazon store, and then they package and move it off.
Yep.
So what's the sale breakdown like between distributors and that's kind of a pretty new, I mean, compared to what you were doing, let's say across the entire timeline, it was only distributors. Now you also have this online presence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So our Amazon business numbers wise is probably about 15% of our business.
So 15%. So it's still majority distributors. 15% is coming from online. Do you think it's going to end up being more like that, or is it still just going to be, that you don't think it's ready to take over?
Well, the hard part is you're shipping water. Yeah. And so the shipping part of it's pretty expensive.
Yeah.
And
heavy, you mean because it's heavy is the main.
Yeah. So you're shipping the full can. So like that's why a lot of people are going to like stick packs and powder stuff, because it's a lot lighter and you can
ship it
pack
faster,
a lot more and ship it faster, cheaper, all that kind of stuff.
I see.
Yeah.
So could you ever do that with BeGOAT? Is it just taking it down to a?
Yeah, we're working on that.
Okay, so there you go. Yeah, I love it.
Yeah.
So that makes a lot of sense, because if you ship this online, it's way more expensive, harder, drives the cost of the product up, but the packages don't. So that the strategy there is for Amazon, sell the packages online, mix it yourself, travel with it, et cetera, right? Yeah. I mean, our good friend Charlie, I think he was sending them, like he was traveling all around the world in the drink fashion, right?
Yeah, in the drink. It's just incredible. Just checking it in his luggage and just going for it.
He loves it that much, and he's a busy guy. Yeah, so that's really cool. So the Amazon's about 15%. Still, a lot of it goes through the distributors. So then, if you're trying to grow, like, what are the moves for growing? Like, how do you make that happen?
So right now, there's a thing that got opened up that we all know about that's changing the game of college sports. It's the old NIL.
Yeah.
So we're actually just getting into the NIL side of things with the mentality of how I took Rockstar to market in the Northwest, of getting involved into the lifestyle and how to use it for the athletes and how they can use it.
Like you approach a football player who's got a lot of popularity and you get him sponsored by BeGOAT.
Yep.
Oh, that's cool. How's that going?
It's going good. Yeah. The reception's been incredible. Because if you really break it down, there's not a lot of athletes in college, even in pros, that have beverage sponsors.
That's a clever idea. I love that. So then what happens from a pay side? Do you do a percentage of product that they sell, or how do you structure that?
So
I'm curious.
Yeah. They aren't, from what we found out so far, and we're just getting into this. So we're just like a sponge of just learning and going. They aren't selling machines. They're kind of marketing and ambassador machines more so than anything.
It's like a billboard more than anything.
Exactly.
It's not a selling machine, it's a billboard. They have eyes on them, and now people will see BeGOAT, and it's one of those like extended. You're not going to sell it like a selling machine, but you're going to get a walking billboard.
Exactly. And you're going to get acceptance, and you're going to get enrollment based on, this guy uses it, or this gal uses it.
Yep.
This is awesome.
Yep.
And so,
so it's a pay for appearance type situation.
Exactly. Yeah. And we're running. So right now we've got 9 athletes, I think, maybe 7. And we're just we're working to grow that out in the Northwest first.
That's cool.
And we're paying for post, and then we're running contests. Whoever has the most reach for their posts and likes and shares and that kind of stuff gets an extra monthly kicker, and then sending swag, sending VIP boxes like this and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. So it's but it is post through social media.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so you're identifying like who has a lot of followers. So it's like influencer with a really smart spin on it, because now you're saying, hey, we want to be the athlete, the BeGOAT. We want to be the best version of you, right? The greatest of all time.
Exactly.
So we're gonna take it. We're gonna make sure it's in our niche with these athletes that we like, and then that'll with it be able to spread out through the people where our target audience are trying to hit.
Exactly.
Nice.
And so
what is that? Is that a wild thing to do a little bit? Like when you go, because it's hard. It's like a billboard. You don't actually know exactly your reach. Is there a way to connect back to what's happening from a sales volume, or is it just?
Oh, my regional sales manager is going bonkers.
Yeah.
He's like, how do we track this? How do we know exactly where it's at? And I'm like, we just will.
Yeah.
And he's just
in your gut. Exactly.
Yeah.
As the
you can
entrepreneur,
feel it.
Go for it. Exactly.
Yep. And the trend is to move into cleaner products. No, and you look at all the stuff that's going on right now out there. Everybody wants as clean as they can get, as long as in the American way, as long as it's easy.
Yeah.
And so now we're trying to make it easy.
Yeah. I think it's really interesting when you look at that marketing strategy and what the return is. And I think that, it's always like, there's this balancing act, especially when you're the CEO or the founder, and you're trying to make these decisions between using your gut, using your intuition, your emotional intelligence, and then using the numbers, right? And you have to sort of be able to play the two out like that. And it's cool that you're like, no, it's going to work. Just keep trying. It's going
to be awesome, guys. Yeah. This is great.
Good. So sales are growing good there.
Yep.
Tell me a little bit from ideation to product launch. I mean, COVID obviously had an impact, but that was what it's been. You came up with
almost 4 years ago. Yeah.
Almost 4 years.
Actually, it is 4 years ago.
Nice.
So the ideation basically came out with, hey, the market wants zero sugar. They want zero sugar in a healthy way, and we need to figure out how to do this. And so we actually took our original formula was 5 grams of organic cane sugar, allulose, monk fruit, and stevia. And then we switched our original formulas, which are these cans here.
Yeah.
And we put those to 9 grams of organic cane sugar and increased it 10 calories to 35 calories. And then we pulled out allulose. And allulose is a non-caloric or a very low caloric sweetener that's natural, non-GMO. But a lot of companies that use allulose use it in a dirty way, and it's not traceable. It's kind of fake. Yeah. And our stuff was fully traceable and all like those legit sorts of things. But enough companies weren't comfortable with it, so we pulled it completely out, and that's why we went down to 6 ingredients.
Nice.
So we updated that, spread this formula to 35 calories and taste really good, and then the zero.
Yeah. So you have both the 35 calorie and then the zero sugar.
Exactly.
And boom.
Yeah.
Well, and what's the biggest difference between zero sugar and 35 calorie? The sugar in it.
That's just it. It's 9 grams of organic sugar.
And that's the only thing.
Well, this one also has a little bit of monk fruit.
Okay.
And this one doesn't. That's the difference. Yeah.
Cool. So what's next? I mean, what's next, Tim? I mean, you got like BeGOAT seems like it's at the beginning or middle stages of really starting to take off. You're happy with it. You feel really good. Sales are growing and going, and it's going to be exciting to see where it goes. What's next for you?
This is it.
That's it.
This is I'm so excited about this product and growing it, because everybody that drinks a BeGOAT is healthier than if they drank anybody else's stuff on the market. Yeah. And I'm not saying it's a healthy beverage. I'm not making those claims, but it's way better. It's way more clean.
Yeah.
And then when I created Liquid Charge and created Core, and I went through that whole process, I was really proud of the learnings, the growth, and everything that I did. But I didn't love what I did with society. Like I didn't love where the brand, it had turned into, how much alcohol can I stuff in this can for the lowest price possible?
Yeah.
And so the customers weren't ideal. I mean, it wasn't helping anybody.
Yeah.
Now with BeGOAT, be your greatest of all time. We're really working to get people inspired to do what they can for themselves every day to get up and make themselves even better. And better formula. It's just a great product, and I'm really proud of the product and what we're doing.
I love it. Yeah. I really like the product as well. Again, I've been using it for just 3 weeks, but I like it a lot, and I look forward to seeing where it goes. I think you're an amazing example of a serial entrepreneur who never gives up, right? Many people would give up at the first hit or the second hit or the third hit. And the funny thing about that is it takes all those efforts and all those things that happen, especially think about it, when you poured 8 years of time, energy, did all, like everything you did, and then you get deregulated, right? You get taken down by regulation. A lot of people would say, hey, this maybe isn't for me, etc. But you found these positive pivots, and you just kept living the growth mindset, finding these positive pivots, keeping your entrepreneur spirit and never giving up. And then it sounds like now we're seeing something that really aligns both with everything you've learned and what you want to do for your community and the world. And it's pretty exciting to see it. And it all comes from not giving up. And I think that if you want to be an entrepreneur, the challenges, the failures, the pain, the sleepless nights, it's all inevitable. The quitting is the piece that you have to fight through. And you're a great walking example of that.
Well, thank you. And one of the best, or I don't know if it's the best advice, but one of the advice I give to a lot of people, friends, and people looking for like, hey, what do you do? How do you do it? If you think you deserve it because you've worked so hard and you've earned it in your own brain, you're probably getting close.
Yeah.
Like you still have to grind through it a lot harder and just dig even deeper. Yeah. And, some people will look at you and be like, thanks, Dick. And other people look at you and get inspired and a little gleam in their eyes. And it's what I've learned from my own experience. Like, wanting to give up. I remember one night I took off out of my house for a run. It was just in Lake Oswego. I had the smallest, dumpiest house in the whole neighborhood. And I ran around the lake and it was raining so hard and it was so dark. It was one of those really dark nights in Portland. And I was just running and I just told myself in my head, I can't, will not stop. Yeah. I can't, will not stop. And it was like an 8-mile run in hills. And I just was saying it over and over. Yeah. And finally I realized I was yelling it out loud as I was coming around the lake. Yeah. It was insane.
Yeah. You were exactly. Yeah. That's like
just coaching yourself through it.
Yeah. It's you have to do it if you're going to do something big. So Tim, I really appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you sharing all your nuggets, your knowledge. I had a blast learning about what you've done and how to launch a product. For anybody that wants to get connected with you, where can they find you?
Yeah. LinkedIn, on our website, and just tim@timbags.com.
Yeah. Order some BeGOAT. Yeah. I think if you want a good, clean energy drink, 200 milligrams, order some BeGOAT. And it's like I said, I really enjoyed it. So
right on. Awesome. Thank you. I've enjoyed being here.
All right. Thanks for coming on. And with that, guys, we will see you on the next one.